I am logged into my Redshift cluster and using the user admin, and I have connected to 3IAM database. I'm setting the search path to retail, so it will change the schema to retail instead of public. And in this schema, we have created multiple tables: customers, orders, order details, so on and so forth. So what I'll do is that I'll take the customers table and run some scenarios there. I'll also take the order tables if needed. So in customer tables, we have customer ID, customer unique ID, customer zip code, city and state. Now the data types do not matter, because what we are going to do is that we are going to try out transactions and logs. Now in scenario 1, what I'll do is that I have this orders table. Now instead of customers, I'll have to take orders tables, and I will start a transaction T1 in session 1, and this transaction should take a log, and then I'll try out transaction 2 and see whether the transaction waits or not. And the transaction would only wait if it is conflicting with transaction T1. So in session 1, I will start, or I'll execute the begin command, and then I'll run any one of these or all: update, delete, select, alter, etc. And in session 2 also, I'll start a begin statement and will run any one of them. What will happen is that if I run the begin statement, it will start a transaction. Then we'll see what happens, and after that we'll check the logs using PG logs and SVB transactions, and after that we'll commit the session 1, and also we'll see what happens to session 2, and then we'll commit session 2 as well. Now this is my RSQL. So this is the first session wherein I have just shown you the customers details of the customers tables. So instead of customers table, let's use orders table, because it's orders, I guess. Yeah, so I have this order table with order ID, customer ID, so on and so forth. Now this is session 1, right? So I have opened this session 1, I have logged into EC2, and from there, using RSQL, I have connected remotely to my Redshift cluster, and I have done the same in a new tab. So this is a new tab, by the way. Let me show you from the beginning. Again, I'm on Mac OS. It would be similar in Windows also, if you're using Windows bash command. Now I'm logging into the EC2 instance. After getting logged in, I will use the RSQL command to connect to the remote Redshift cluster. So I'm connected to my Redshift cluster using admin user and with dev database. So let me connect to the 3IAM database, and now I'll set the search path to retail so that the default schema is taken as retail. Okay, this is done. Now before starting this transaction, this will be the second transaction, we need one more console wherein I want to take a look at the logs. So what I'll do is that we'll check that using query editor v2, not in the RSQL. Let me open query editor v2. I can do that from here also. I have not shown you how to do that from here. So just click in query editor v2 and it will take me to the query editor. And here I can run the commands that I want, which you already know. Okay, so now what I'll do is that I'll remove all these and I'll save it as transactions. Now I will check the logs. How do we check the logs, right? So now there's a query to check the logs. The first one, there are multiple tables that I have shown you. One is pg underscore logs. This is one table. If I run this, execute this command, it tells me about the relation. Relation is basically the table ID. Database, the database actually the database ID, and then some transaction ID, what lock mode it has taken, and whether the lock has been granted or not. Now it is not giving me too much of information, to be honest, because now what is happening here is that all these are object IDs for the relation and the database. So what we'll have to do is that we'll have to get the actual table names and the database names. So how do you get that? Now in the PG class info table, I will get the relation ID and its corresponding name. So I'll have to join the PG log table with the PG class info table so that I can get, or I can see, proper output with the name. Similarly for database, I'll have to query PG database info here, but we'll get the database name corresponding to the database ID. So now let us go ahead and join these three tables. So this is the query, and in this query it will be able to show you the transaction and its corresponding log. Now if you see, the currently I'm running query on pg class info, pg logs and pg database info. This particular transaction is also showing that I have taken access share log on pg class info, pg database info. Internally it is taking log on pg class extended, pg class and pg logs because I have mentioned pg logs here. Now what will I do is that I'll remove this table names, because I do not want any system tables to be shown here. So let me add at least pg underscore percentage. It will remove at least the pg class logs. Now I should not see any output. So if you see, there are no rows. So this is the query. Again, this query is also there in the sheet, in the command sheet, as you already know. Now what will I do is that let me go to session 1, start a transaction and see what log do I see on that particular table, on that order table. So this is my first session. Let me start the transaction, begin. So I have started the transaction with begin. Now I'll be running this update statement. So it is update order, set order status equal to not done, where order ID equal to certain value. So I'm using this particular order ID, and the table name is orders. Actually it's not order. And if I press enter, it will not commit the change because it's a transaction. Two rows have been affected, but it has not been committed. So I'm inside of a transaction. So the transaction is still in progress unless I run either commit or rollback. Now what will I do? Let me go to query editor v2 and see what log has been taken on this particular table, which is orders table. Now if I run this query, as you can see that the table name order, so there are two logs, access share log and share exclusive row log. Two logs have been taken. Now the reason there is access share log, because the update statement has to get the record to make the update. So that's why that is access share log. And while it is making an update, it's a share row exclusive log. So as you already know that, as per the slide that I had shown you, share row exclusive log will block access exclusive log and other share row exclusive log. Now, why it is shared row exclusive log or R log? Because again, as I said, that I have taken log on a single row. So if I run update statement on another order ID, then I should not have any problem. But if I run update statement on the same order ID, which is on the same row, I will be blocked. So I'll be on wait state. So this is my second session, and let me start a transaction and I'll run the same order statement. Now let's see what happens. It has not completed. So it is blinking. That means the statement has not completed because this row is being logged by the other transaction. So this particular transaction should be in wait state. And if I run this query again, I should be able to see the other transaction. So if you see, it's a separate process ID 1073438408483, which is different than the other two. The share row exclusive log has not been granted because the other transaction is holding the same share row exclusive log on the same row. What I'll do is I'll remove the transaction ID. This is not needed, so it will be much clearer. So now you can say the transaction has not been granted, so it is waiting. It is still waiting. Now if I run commit here and if I press enter, this blinking will go away and this transaction would also commit. Okay, the commit is done, and so this is also done. Now again, I have not committed this transaction yet, so I'll roll back this transaction. So the changes that I have made will be reverted, will be undone. So this is share row exclusive log. So if you see in the scenario 1, I tried to show you scenario 1 wherein transaction 2 was waiting because it had taken share row exclusive log on that particular row, and the moment I committed session 1, session 2 also got completed and I could commit the transaction. So again, I did not run all of them. I ran only update statement on single row.